Good Monday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Pargamanik. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. You want to start with the disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, provide you with guidance. There's a disclaimer.
Excellent.
And while I'm sharing my screen, quick note to anyone joining us for the first time. Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to help answer any questions you have about the Market Chameleon tools, data, or analytics. If you have a question and you'd like to ask that question live, we provide a link to Zoom on the live chat on YouTube. So click on that. It takes you over to Zoom. Once you get into Zoom, click on raise your hand. Then you could ask your question live and direct. If you rather type your question in, you can also do that on that live chat on YouTube. Will's watching those questions. He'll read them back to me. While we're waiting for more people to join and for some questions to queue up, we'll start out with the pre-market report, see if we could get some insights on stocks trading in pre-market hours. Then we'll move on to any questions. If we don't have any questions, I'll continue on some conversations we had from the previous week. And if we do get questions in the middle, let me know, stop me, and I'll take them.
Cool.
Okay. So pre-market trading, these are stocks that are trading in a pre-market hours. I'm going to come down here and we have a list of our most active stocks, our biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. I'm going to scroll down here and I see 56 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 30 and on the decliners. So right now, from this perspective, looks like we're set up for a slightly bullish bias at the open. If we look at this list, you'll notice that there are stocks in there that are small cap stocks. There are ETFs in there, leverage products. Any security that's listed on a major US exchange, if it's trading in pre-market hours, it can make this list. And we want to filter it down to a smaller group of stocks. To do that, we could use the filters here above. And what I'm going to do is use this one here, an ETF filter. When you click on it, you get a drop down menu with different ETFs to choose from. The top ones are broad-based ETFs. And then you got some sector ETFs. Let's take this one, SPY. That's S&P 500 ETF. Click on that. The filter will, let me see. I might have to refresh my screen here, Will. I think I had it open for a while. Let me do that again. So go here. I'm going to select SPY. Then the list below gets filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF, which are the S&P 500 constituents. Here we have 14 stocks that made our percentage gainers list, 5 on the decliners. So, the list isn't huge, but shows slightly more bullish bias at the open. We could also take a look up here. This here is a summary of what's going on in a pre-market hours. This is June 5th. We're on there now. If you wanted to go back days, you could do that here. You could even use the drop down here and go back, calendar days. But let's just stay on June 5th. And here we get a breakdown of what's going on in a pre-market hours. These are stocks that are up. These are stocks that are down. So we got 464 stocks so far in the pre-market trading higher than Friday's close, and 356 that are trading lower than Friday's close. As far as volume of shares, 82.9 million shares are trading higher, 36 million lower. And if we convert those shares to dollar value, because not all stock prices are the same price. We got $1.6 billion worth of stock trading higher, $1.1 billion worth of stock trading lower in the pre-market hours. So far from different perspectives, looks like we're lining up for a more positive open. So if we have any questions, Will, I'll take them now. If not,
You know what? I just remembered we didn't discuss it before, so we could do it another day. But Rob was asking on Friday at the end. I caught it at the end of the chat on Friday. He was asking if you could go maybe over that event-driven stock performance screener in more detail on another show, which we could do tomorrow or whatever. But Rob did ask that at the end of the day on Friday in the chat.
So what was the question again?
He was asking about the event-driven historical stock performance screener, how to use it, how to navigate around. It's one of the screeners we have. We were talking about something, looking for historical events. I think we were talking about maybe the Fed meeting or something, and how stocks maybe performed previously. And there's a screener which he was unaware of. That was just one of the things he asked on Friday. I figured I'd bring it back up.
Okay. So do you have the question in front of you?
Rob, let me see. Well, Rob's on. Rob, you had a question at the end of the day. I'll re-look for it. He said, yes, going through the clicks on that screener would be all right. Let me see the exact email. But it was basically just wanted to go through it in more detail. Again, we can revisit it tomorrow. You can look at it. We can revisit it tomorrow. He's just on, and I remember he did ask about that.
Okay. We have this event driven screeners. So these are capturing different events and seeing how the stock performed around those events. But if you could give me this exact question, let me know before the show, Will.
All right.
So I could read the question. It kind of throws me off if you're doing it right in the middle. But this is the event driven screener here. And if you were looking to just kind of screen out a certain event, let's say, let's say dividends, how did certain stocks perform around their ex-dividend dates? And you wanted to see if there are certain stocks that tended, let's just say, go up into and this doesn't have to be just ex-dividends. We do have here FOMC meetings, GDP report, consumer price index, and so forth. But I'll just stick to the first one, ex-dividend dates. And if we wanted to see stocks that tended to rally, right? Let's say tended to rally around the ex-dividend date, and we could give it a open and close range. So let's just say 2 days before. So here we could kind of start screening out stocks that paid dividends, like when ex-dividend. And if we screened out things that tended to rally more than 70% of the time into the ex-dividend date, you could get a list of stocks here to start analyzing. We could keep filtering it down lower. Maybe we give it, sometimes we don't have enough observations. So I could say, let's say at least 12 observations.
So this would be the last 12 dividends, basically.
Yeah, if I select it, it'll use the last 12 dividends. And then in this screener, we could quickly see, here's ADM, for example, using the last 12 ex-dividend dates. If we measured the performance of the stock leading up to that ex-dividend date, the question would be, do people tend to buy the stock into the ex-dividend date, right? Is that's kind of the question it's trying to answer. What did investors do? Because we know, usually the company tells you ahead of time when it's going ex-dividend. And we do know that date. And the question will be, well, what did investors tend to do leading into that date historically? And here we're looking at, did the stock tend to go up? That's what we're filtering for. So here in ADM, historically, out of these last 12 observations, 75% of them, the stock rallied. On average, it was up 1.2%, right? The median return right in the middle was up 1%. That's a 2-day return right up to the ex-dividend. The best return it had was 3.6%. The worst in that period was 1.3%. This is the standard deviation of the returns. So this lets you know, if we took that average, how much did the other returns vary around that average? And this here, the sharp is taking the average return, dividing it by the standard deviation to give you that sharp. Okay, so if you want a lower standard deviation and a higher return, so that would make this number higher, right? The higher this number, the better, because it's saying, well, you're getting, on average, it had, a decent return and it was kind of consistent, right? There's not a lot of variability around that return. So this would be around the next dividend. We could kind of maybe even, let's see if we can narrow it down. We'll say, just how many do we have here? 224. So let's say we narrow this down that we need an average return of at least 1% and a median return of at least 1%. So this is saying that not just the average, but the median return, because the average could have gotten pulled up, because you get like one really big return. With over here. Let me see how many we have. So we're down to 67. Let's see if we could narrow this down more. Let's take a look at a sharp above 1 if we have any. All right, so here's a couple above 1. So what are these saying here? That, well, the average return over here was 2.4. We could see median return 1.9. That the best return was way better than the worst here. So you could see here 6.7 versus 0.4. And the standard deviation of these returns around the average was 1.7. So the average return was greater than even the standard deviation. That's what this one is indicating here. Okay.
Rob is asking, if I sort under win ratio, is the percent based on positive returns?
Yeah.
If so, would not a put play on 0% rate be a good win rate?
Well, this is looking at positive returns. Yeah. So you would do the opposite if you were looking the other way, below. So if you're looking at it tended to go down, right? Let's say it tended to go down. We could, first of all, you could start with negative returns. Let's say below. Let me release some of this. So these would be the other way, right? These tended to go down ahead of its ex-dividend. So you could see only 25% it went up. 75% of the time it was lower. On average, it lost 2.4%. And the median return was negative 1.9. You can see here, it's pretty volatile. Whatever this ADT was pretty volatile around its ex-dividend date. So yeah, you would just have to reverse these if you're looking for stocks that tended to go lower.
Yeah, that's great. Rob says thanks, D.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, we did have a question since we're talking about dividends. A new someone who joined us for the first time today said, can we screen to ask which companies are going to have dividend announcement in the next 5 days?
The ones that are going to go ex dividend, you mean? I don't know which
Yeah.
ones are going to announce, right? Like, but if they've already announced that they're going to go ex dividend, then we could take a look at here's a report over here, future ex dates. So this is the master list. And here you have all these are the dividends that we captured that either made an announcement or released some kind of schedule that we could reference. And let's say we wanted to do next 7 days, right? We could just click on that next 7 days, and this gives us a list of, there are 500 in here that are expected to give to go ex div in the next 7 days. So here's June 8th, so here are the ex dates over here. These are the symbols. You got the record date, pay date here. These are when they announced. Sometimes they give a schedule. This is the stock type. And right now we allow to download this list, this master list. So you can come in here. For now, we do download, but again, some of these we're compiling, some we're getting from vendors. So that also could change if the vendors are, do not allow for that. But for now they do. So here you could come in here, take, download this list, and you'll be able, or just right from here. If you have a watch list, you could also screen by your watch list. And you could see which ones are coming up in the next 5 days. You could sort these, I think, too.
Hey, D, Rob, and unfortunately we have a delay, everybody, just so you know, between YouTube and what we're doing on Zoom. Rob was asking, could you just walk through again how you got to the page, the clicks? I guess from the landing page.
So this master for what, this ex dividend?
Yeah, the ex dividend.
So under stocks, if you go over here, future ex dates, it's right there. So it's all the way to the right. You see under dividends, future ex dates. So these are ex dates that are coming up, right? Not past, but these are ex dates that are expected, coming up in the future.
All right, from the newest person to join today, Shantha is asking, thanks. Is it possible to add the previous screener? I'm assuming the event screener you're on, on 2 days before the same screen. I actually don't really understand the question. Shantha, I don't know if you want to click the link at the top. You could come over to the Zoom, and you don't have to turn on the camera, but if you turn on your microphone, you could ask the question live and let us know exactly what you're asking. Unless you got, does that anything ring to you there, D, what she's asking about?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet what that means.
Or so maybe, if you want to come on over, just click on over to the Zoom and I'll get you in.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, for sure.
Yeah. Or maybe just, clarify what that means.
Yeah, you can do it. Try typing it in the YouTube as well.
Yep. Okay.
We did have a question too from Sarush. He was asking, good morning, gentlemen. Question about Market Chameleon platform. Can we see historical delta for different strike price on SPY?
Historical delta for different strike prices?
Yeah. That's, I wasn't exactly sure. I know you can look at the options chain back in history, right? You can go back and see where the options were at a different period. I wasn't exactly sure what you meant by that either, Sarush. I don't know if you want to come on to the chat and ask exactly what you're looking for historical delta.
Right. When we look at an options chain here, every option, it'll have a delta which is derived by an option pricing model, right? Like binomial or Black-Scholes. And if you go back, let's say, you could go back in time throughout, let's say at 11:30. So if I click at 11:30, then I get a snapshot of what this options chain looked like at 11:30. The stock was at a different place. And then this is where the option was at that time. And that was the delta of the option at that time at 11:30. If you go back days, let's say Tuesday. So Tuesday, this is going to be at the end of the day, but you could go back Tuesday at 1 p.m. And if you're looking at that option, this is where the stock was at that time. This is where the options were at that moment. And then you could take a look at, what the delta was at that time. So this was, the stock's at a different place, obviously 420. So the 420 delta at that time was 55. So that would,
that's how you'd go back in time to look at the delta of a particular strike.
Right.
Is that what you were looking for, Sarush? Let us know. All right.
Okay. Yep.
Those questions got us almost through the entire show. Do you've anything else? We'll give it a few seconds because the newest visitor today, Shantha, was going to try to come over to the Zoom to ask.
Okay.
No one's popped in yet. So
okay. Yeah, we'll give it a few seconds. But while we're doing that, I think, is it not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, we're doing an Interactive Brokers
correct.
webinar.
The second Tuesday of every month.
Yeah. So we'll talk
28th show, I think.
Greeks. Yeah. So we'll talk about option Greeks on that one. Analyzing options trades. So I'll go into more details about that. So we'll talk about, the delta, the gamma, vega, theta. So we'll have a discussion on that. And then at the end of the month, and just to remind, I'm not going to be here. So
this is a big announcement.
Yes. So we're not going to do that show for that period that I'm away. It's going to be like almost 2 weeks. Okay. So for that period, we're not going to be doing the pre-market show. When I get back, then we'll restart it.
We need to see lots of pictures though when you come back.
Yeah. So I'm going away on vacation. When I get back, we'll restart it back up. So for that 2 weeks, we won't be doing it.
Well, that's what you're gonna have a great vacation. It's well deserved. We did have Robert said, I believe that the trading cards analyze former Greeks and price to obtain whether or not this is an edge. This would include delta. If you load it into the calculator, you see different edge prices.
I'm not sure I understood that question.
That's more of a statement, I think, about the trade. He's trying to give some other advice about how you can maybe look at the Greeks throughout time. Maybe when you put in a trade, you can see where the Greeks were. Rob, if you wanted to come over at some point and talk about that, you're more than welcome. We haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Shantha can't seem to get onto the Zoom.
Yeah.
Anyways, you could either send us a short email if you want, Shantha, support at Market Chameleon. Dimitri's always great at responding, and we could do it for another show if you want to explain in more detail what you were looking for with the previous screener and 2 days before. With that, D, it's 9:24. We are doing a, not that it's live, but if you haven't listened, I think this is our third or fourth podcast we've done with Interactive Brokers. We're going to be doing another one today, and that will probably be out in about 2 weeks. But you can go to the Interactive Brokers website and search for podcasts. And Dimitri has done some great podcasts with Interactive Brokers too. They're doing well in the podcast world, which is great.
Yep. So thanks everyone for joining. I guess we'll just end it here. Well, we're almost at 9:30.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. We'll do the same thing.
Awesome job, D, as always. Thanks.